A very strong Grandmaster tournament ended in Vizag in the Geetam University, and it was won by the Russian GM Boris Savchenko. You can see him on your screen up there on right. Let me just show you. And why is Farrukh Amonatov here? Because in the last round, Savchenko beat him to win the title. And it was a phenomenal game that I'm going to show you now. You're going to love it. You're going to have to be on top of your game. Just to show you the final standings, Savchenko won it with 8.5 out of 10. Second was Luka Paichadze. Third was Kirill Stupak. Indians Harsha Bharatkoti, Nitin S. and Mitraba Guha played very well to pick up 4th, 5th and 6th spot. This was the performance of Boris Savchenko. He started off slow. He was on 3.5 out of 5. But then in the last 5 rounds, he picked up pace and won all of his games to win the title. This game that was played in the final round was brought to my attention by my very good friend Nisha Mohota. She told me that this game is insane, and when I looked at it, I loved it. So, are you ready for it? Take black pieces for yourself. If you have a chessboard with you, set it up on your side, play through it, guess the moves. It's going to be great fun. E4 by Farrukh Amonatov, and he is in tremendous form because he had won just about every tournament that was held in India. Like, he was winning back-to-back events, and with the white pieces in final round, he had a great chance of winning the tournament as well. Savchenko goes for French, and then knight to c3, the main line, the classical variation. D takes e4, knight takes e4, knight to d7. So with knight d7, you are preparing knight f6 so that in case your opponent takes, you want to take back with the knight. Knight to f3, the knight comes out, bishop g5, h6, and he took here. Knight takes f6. Well, it was also possible, by the way, here to play the move bishop h4, but it has somehow not been scoring so well for black, for white. Maybe c5 is one of the moves that has been scoring well for black in this position. But takes and bishop e3 makes a lot of sense, just bringing his bishop back. Knight to d5, attacking the bishop. You don't want to give up your bishop pair, so he went bishop d2. c5, hitting in the center by Savchenko. And here came the first minor inaccuracy of the game, the move c4, which was not a good move. He should have actually first played bd7, and then after takes played c4, and this would have made a lot of difference in the position, mainly because knight e5 can come in followed by queen a4 check. So maybe the knight has to go back to b6, and then this very cool move rook c1, and the point is that if you take here, then in comes c5, pushing the knight away, knight e5 followed by queen a4, and white is better. So this bishop b5 check in this position would have been nice. Amonatov goes c4. Now you come back, d takes c5, bishop c5, and black has got an excellent position out of the opening. b4 was Amonatov's idea, gaining time on the bishop. Just bishop dropped back, queen c2, and now here a normal move would be, okay, I'm not going to tell more. Try to think what should black play here. Black to move. Okay, a normal move here would be castles, and well, it's a decent move, not at all bad. But you notice how this rook on a1 is not protected. So there are no tactics there, but whenever that is not protected and the opponent's pawn is on b4, your radar can just rise there and you can play the move a5. And why? How does it matter that this rook is not defended? Because a3, and now after ab, the rook is hanging on a1, so he cannot play a3. You can take here, but then I'm sure that, maybe not sure, but I think Savchenko could have gone for this move. Rook takes a5, because after bishop takes a5, queen a5, black is just better. You know, bishop b4 coming in, it's just the king is too weak. So b5 was played by Amonatov, and now the c5 square has been weakened, and a very nice move b6, because you are going to put your bishop on b7. Bishop e2, bishop b7, castles. And what I like about this game in particular is that black does not castle for the sake of castling. Like here, I would have really gone castles. Just castle, what's the problem? But he sees that maybe now with castling done, there's no bishop before check, right? So the bishop can actually move here. So he instantly stops it with queen to c7. It's a nice move. Bishop c3, and now comes knight to g4, and the game starts to get super sharp. Okay, so here one of the threats now obviously is to take on f3, and queen h2 mate. So h3 was played, and now it's your second point in this game. What do you play here as black to play? So here, if you chose bishop takes f3, it's not a bad move, and I think you should get at least half a point there, because after hg4, bishop e2, queen e2, the position is just normal and around equal. But you know Savchenko, he wants to attack, yeah, and he goes h5, and this is a classy move. The first point for you was with the move a5, and the second point is for the move h5. Okay, now comes rook fd1. Notice that if you were to take here, then in this position after hg4, the position is still not clear 100% what is happening. But white has to be super precise. First of all, he must take this pawn. By taking this pawn, he is asking a question to the rook: where are you going to move? Now the rook can't go to h7 because the queen is looking here. You don't want to leave the h file because together the queen and rook are looking at the h2 square. So you go for the move rook h5 here, and in this position maybe the move knight e5 comes to mind. Notice that if you played knight e5 before, I mean this is all going to kind of transpose back into the game, so I don't want to look at it too deeply, but just so that you know there is enough compensation here as well. Rook fd1 was played, and now for your next point, what do you play here as black? Third point here. So when you have said A, which is with knight g4, and you have said B with h5, there is no point in not saying C. Like you don't come back here and say, okay, I'm not attacking. After this, white just takes over. He goes bishop e5. He has all his pieces nicely positioned. That's over. So you have to go bishop to c5. Excellent move here played by Savchenko. And this is the right move, putting pressure on the f2 square. Okay, done. So now comes the move h takes on g4. Okay, you could have played bishop d4 here, but then after takes, it seems like that light squared, dark squared bishop was important, and after e5, the position once again with e4 coming up becomes very dangerous for for white. So hg4 is the correct move. You take back, and now there are two possibilities. One is knight e5, the other one is bishop e5. Let's first look at bishop e5. What should black do in this position? Black to move. Well, this one is not so difficult. It's actually pretty straightforward, but I still want you to try to think how to continue here as black. The right move here is queen e7, just shifting your queen so that later on you can move it in the direction of the attack. Okay, knight e5. How would game have continued here, and why did Amonatov not choose this move? I have a feeling that here he was not so sure of the move g3, which is like the only move to attack. And now the only defensive move, it's like a series of only moves that have to be found. White's only move is bishop f3. Then you again take here. He must take back with the pawn. Bishop check. King f1. There's also possible king g2, but then you just lose a tempo, rook h2, and actually this position is winning because of g2 check. And then I play g1 and I win your queen here. So you can't play king g2 as a move. You have to play king f1. There comes a check on h1. Now again, king g2 will meet with the same fate. So king e2, and now you play rook h2, and somehow black is doing quite okay here. One line could be rook h1, bishop g1 check, takes threatening to queen, queen h7, stopping the queen, long castle. It's a crazy variation. It's a crazy variation with so many things happening. Knight c6, and somehow white is hanging on here, although the position is objectively around equal. Okay, so going back to the game, bishop e5 was played, and now comes the move queen e7, as we saw. And here he played the move, the only defensive move once again for white, knight to h2. And here's your fifth point in today's thing. What do you do here as black to play? Savchenko was on fire and he found the right move. Starting with queen h4 has absolutely no threat because the bishop controls the knight, supports the knight, bishop g4, and white is winning. So the right move here is boom. Kudos if you found it. That was an important move. Now, if you take with the king, it's already game over because of check, king g1, check, king h2 or wherever, and mate. So that is over. And also g2 is hanging, so that was also mate. So you have to take with the bishop. Once taken with the bishop, the next move here, try to think what would you do here as black to play. You have to continue finding the best moves. If you don't, you are in trouble. Both sides. It's such a sharp game. So the right move here is queen h4. Excellent move. Putting pressure here mainly. And at this point, you have to figure out what should white play in this position now. It's time for you to put on your thinking cap as white, because this position, if you're not alert, you will be in trouble. White to move. This is where Amonatov went wrong. He thought that the threat is only on the f2 square and he defended bishop with bishop f1, which was a mistake, and we'll come to it. g3 was the best defensive move. And here I was wondering, how should you continue? You want to mate him with queen h3, but then comes bishop f1 and white is winning. But here is the sack, bishop f2, king f2, queen h2, king e1, queen g3, king d2, rook d8, king c1. And actually this position, I think, is still sharp. I don't know what would have happened here, but the engine assesses this as equal. So maybe there is enough for both. I don't know which side is it easier to play as, because for a rook, black has this armada of pawns, but maybe it's just a perpetual somewhere. So this is around equal, this position, but that was the best defense. But Amonatov went bishop f1 and the ball is in your court once again, black to play. How do you deal with this situation? I think it was this move which stunned Amonatov because he had expected the move g3 here. And you see this pawn is pinned. And he was going to take back with the bishop. Queen takes. And maybe here there are many ways to defend. One of them is rook d2. The other one is rook d3. And I think white is doing excellently well in this position. He's an exchange up and all is well. But what he missed here, and if you found it, hats off to you. Excellent move found by black. King e7. And this just brings the final piece into the game. You know, we always talk about get your all the pieces into the battle, and all of a sudden it's just over. For example, here's a very pretty line. If you go g3, can you find the winning move? There are many, but one of them is exceptionally nice. Yes. Queen sacrifice. Take, rook swings over and checkmate. And bishop g3 was played in the game because rook h8 is such a big threat. don't even know how to defend against it actually. Let's say if I go queen d3 here, trying to bring my queen there, but then bishop f2 is very powerful. And after king here, I have check, takes, check. It's not even that you are going to just win the queen. G3, and such a pretty checkmate on the board because the pawn is pinned here. So queen can't leave the f2 control, and you can't do that. Then how are you going to defend this bishop? Actually, it's too much to handle, and you are in trouble. So king e7, bishop g3 was played. Now that seemed like the only move here, and queen takes g3, queen d2. A big threat in the position now is queen g5 check. So if you were careless enough to play something like rook h8, then queen g5, and you are suddenly lost. Don't do that. Queen h4, stopping that check. Queen f4, rook h8. A check came in, the king moved up. A check came in, king went to g6. Check here, f5, stopping the check. King f1. And now there are many ways to win. Black is just dominating this position. But the way in which Savchenko finished off was very pretty. He took on g2 with the bishop. Okay, you can also go queen h1 check. That's why I didn't ask this as a question. And take here. That's also winning. But take this king e1. I mean, if you take here, it's a mate. Queen h3, king g1 and queen h1 mate. So king e1, bishop b4. Look at how both the bishops are just completely dominating. And in this position, he resigned because if he plays king e3, this is a super pretty checkmate. This is not only after here you take this, but you use your queen. So this final position is just so nice with queen, bishop, and bishop completely checkmating the king in the center. So after bishop f3 check, Amonatov resigned and Savchenko became the champion. What a beautiful game, and I hope you were able to guess the moves. If not, you learned some great attacking techniques here. One of them was, I think one of the biggest lessons here is not to castle if not needed. Here, many players would have castled, but he goes queen c7, and then he sets up this very Sicilian type of an attack with h5, and then he continues it. Really, first this rook sacrifice, then bringing your queen in on the f2 pawn, and I really loved this next move, king e7, bringing all your pieces into the game. What about this rook here? It has to be brought in, and that's the reason why Black won. Kudos to Savchenko for a great game, and congratulations to him for winning the Vizag Open. This is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye.